All right, what's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. All right, so this is not a breakdown. This is like a pre-breakdown where I'm just going to discuss some things outside of the fight itself and just my thoughts leading up to the fight. We have a little bit over a week left to go until the fight. It's going to be next Saturday on the 22nd. All right, so we have a little bit more than a week. And listen, I think the hype behind the fight is real. Like I've heard a few people say like the that the hype is not really there like that. They don't think they're marketing the fight well enough. I think they are marketing the fight pretty well. Okay, I think it's everyone's talking about it. At least to me, I mean, you can always promote a fight more, but at the end of the day, they want a good balance of where they're dishing out enough money for promotion, but they want to recoup that money in return, as far as pay-per-view revenue and ticket sales and stuff like that. I haven't checked the tickets since I think when they first announced the fight, because I think for a bit we were a little worried because they took a little while to announce the fight. I think fights of this magnitude should be, you kind of want to put it out there months in advance. Now we knew the fight was coming, but we wasn't sure. We weren't sure for a while because they really didn't officially announce it, and then they didn't have the press conference for a while. All right, but I think the hype around it now, I think they just realized that they didn't have to market it like really super early. I think they realized that, listen, we already announced it last year because they announced a Luis Ortiz rematch with Wilder last year, and like I think within the same week they announced that we were gonna have two fights with Tyson Fury. All right, so I think they realized, like, listen, hey, we don't really need to promote it for many months. Like we can just go 100% as it gets closer to the fight, and I think that's exactly what they're doing here, right? I'm not into marketing. I have no idea. I'm just a typical boxing fan, but I think the hype behind the fight is real. It's giving me that feeling. Like I see that both ESPN broadcasters and the PBC broadcasters are going to be together. It's giving me that Mayweather Pacquiao feel because both the HBO and the Showtime broadcasters at that time were put together in order to cover this fight. All right. I remember going out there to Vegas that week back in 2015. I remember ESPN being on that. They were heavy on it. And this is when ESPN wasn't really covering boxing like that. So they had brought all these legendary boxers from, back in the day, Hopkins, Roy Jones, to talk about this fight. It was a lot of, I did videos. I met Mike McCallum that week. I had just missed Roy. I went to a Boxing Hall of Fame event, and I'm getting that feel with this fight. Maybe not as big as that, but what I will say is that I think the pay-per-views are gonna do well. I think they're gonna do well. I don't know what many may consider well, but I'm actually hoping they do over at least over a half a million, at least, at the very least. I think they will do half a million, and I think if I'm gonna give you like pay-per-view numbers, like predictions, I'm thinking that these guys might end up doing like, I'm gonna roll with 670 million. I'm gonna roll with that. I'm gonna go 670 to 700. I'm gonna roll with that. All right. I don't know how people are looking into it, but that's the number that I have in my head. That's the first number that came up in my head. I think a success would probably be over a half of a million buys. So if we could get 670,000 buys, 600, 700,000, but at least 500,000 at the very least, I think that would be pretty good. All right. Um, are they actually going to really have a third fight? Oh, I think, well, it depends on how this second fight goes. Because if we get an early knockout or we get a dominated performance, I think that we won't be getting a third fight. I mean, there won't be as much of a demand for a third fight. I think there's a lot of demand now And I think it was probably best that they didn't go into an immediate rematch. I'm not talking about as a fan. As a fan, I wanted to see a rematch right away, but business wise, it was better. Uh, Probably for both because Wilder is coming off of two knockout wins, one against a guy that gave him his toughest fight in Luis Ortiz. He was able to knock him out a lot earlier in the rematch. And then you had Dominic Brazil knockout, which was a highlight knockout that was all over social media and stuff like that. And then you had Tyson Fury, who didn't have the best performances. He did have a nice performance against oh geez, I can't remember the first guy he fought, but Otto Warner gave him a tough fight. But he was able to secure a big deal with ESPN, so it was beneficial for him to secure a big money deal before having a rematch. Because if he had a rematch with Fury, I mean with Wilder, and he did get knocked out, then we Tom Schwartz is who I was thinking of before. If he had lost a fight with Wilder without securing a big deal, he might not have been able to make a lot of money, So I guess for both, it was pretty good. All right. And I'm just speaking on these two. I'm not speaking on Anthony Joshua and everything about that. I already shared my thoughts on that situation. All right. But I like the fight and I like the hype behind it. As far as breaking it down, from the very beginning, I've always been leaning more towards Wilder only because it's the safer pick for me. In my eyes, I think it's a safer pick to go with because he can end the fight in one punch. And the fight is a 12-round fight. Now going into the first fight, if you guys weren't here back then, I had picked Wilder to win the first fight. I thought it was just a little too soon for Fury to fight in very super elite heavyweight. And those first two fights on his comeback, I didn't really think that it didn't make me feel any kind of way about him. I just was too unsure about Fury. I thought he was looking okay, but I thought he was past his prime on his comeback. I thought he needed to cut a lot of weight and he didn't look as sharp. So going into the Wilder fight, I said, I think it was just too soon for him to fight Wilder, Joshua, or any other elite heavyweight at the time, and I had went with Wilder. Now after watching the first fight, I thought Fury won the fight. I thought Fury secured more rounds, much more rounds. I thought he won 8 clear rounds for me. I thought 8 clear rounds for me. I gave Wilder 4 rounds. 2 of them was the rounds that he had knockdowns in, and I gave him 2 additional rounds. All right, and I scored it 8 rounds to 4, which means Tyson Fury went clear rounds. Clear rounds. When I say rounds, I don't mean no, I mean clear rounds with Fury. I gave to him. All right, so I thought he won, but still going into the rematch, even though I haven't done a breakdown, and you guys will check out the breakdown, I'm still leaning towards Wilder because I just feel that even though Fury is the better boxer, I think he's the overall better talent, boxing ability and all, defense, stuff like that. Wilder just needs really one punch. He just needs one punch. It doesn't matter how many rounds you win against him. We saw that in Gerald Washington fight. We saw that in the Luis Ortiz fight. We've seen Wilder hurt. We see him wobbled. At the end of the day, if you can't get Wilder out of there, chances are you're gonna get touched before the end of the fight. And when you get touched by the right hand, you're gonna go down. I mean, it's happened to Fury. Fury almost got knocked out. And I understand the argument against that. I understand people think that Fury wasn't at his best. Fury was a cherry pick at the time because, no one thought he was as good as he was. He surprisingly lost a lot of weight before the Wilder fight. He looked great. And I don't think Wilder's team expected that. I don't think many of us fans expected that. But I still believe that Wilder is the choice to go with. You know, um, just for me, it's definitely 50-50. I definitely wouldn't put money up for it. I'm not confident in that because I know Fury's boxing ability, and I do feel that Fury won the first fight. But those two knockdowns, one especially is the one that really almost knocked him out. Uh, I just don't know, man. And being that Wilder, I know there's going to be changes. I'm sure there's changes in preparation and stuff like that, where Wilder had a rematch recently against Luis Ortiz and his game plans. And I think Wilder's going to have that same game plan. The thing is, Wilder doesn't really panic. And I've seen this discussion with John Fury and all these guys at BT Sports Channel has been doing a great job covering this fight, leading up to this fight. They've been doing a lot of breakdowns, a lot of roundtable discussions. They've been doing a really, really good job promoting this fight. Salute to them. But the thing is, I don't think Wilder is a guy that panics. I think he's proven over and over again. You might not think he fought the best opposition. I don't think he has. But the thing is, Wilder could be down on points and he's still relaxed. Like he still knows how this fight is gonna end. And one day it may not work for him. I've said this before in the past. This is when I used to be really critical on Wilder in my earlier years ago when I was like, the thing is Wilder has all this power, but it's like he's not good at winning rounds. And that's just not his game plan. His game plan is to just knock you out whenever it comes. It could be the 12th round, it could be the first round. The knockout will come, you know? And that's the way he fights. Now, if the knockout doesn't come, then yeah, he has a pretty tough time winning on the cards against a few people that he's faced. All right, but he's expecting the knockout. And even though Fury is a very, very talented boxer, he still makes mistakes. He's still there to get hit. I mean, even Steve Cunningham laid them out. He got back up. He has a tough chin. He has a lot of heart, but I still believe that Wilder is a guy to go with. You know, um, so I'm kind of still leaning towards Wilder, and at the very end of my breakdown, when I really get technical about the fight, I'm probably still gonna go with Wilder, but I think the cut still plays a factor too. I know a lot of people don't think it may not really be a factor because Wilder is a knockout artist, and I understand that argument. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but what if Wilder hits him with a good jab and opens the cut up? Do you think that if that cut is as ugly as it was in that Otto Wallin fight, do you think if the cut is that ugly again, and the fight is going in Tyson Fury's favor, that they won't stop the fight? It will be a factor. It could be a factor, you know? And it could be a factor if they don't stop the fight and the blood is running down his eye, and, you know, it'll be easier for Wilder to connect with that right hand or land something that would set up the right hand, the jab and following up with the right hand. You never know. You never know. It could be a factor. And that's another thing that I'm worried about in this fight, too, is that cut. He got that cut in his very, very last fight. And I know it's been months since then, and he's going to have a good stitch cut man on his corner, and that's all good. That's all good, but it could still play a factor. You never know. Wilder did land some nice jabs in that first fight. I do remember that. All right, but I think Wilder overall is going to be taking the same approach he took with Luis Ortiz. I think he's going to be throwing less. I don't think Wilder's going in there to win rounds. I think he understands that Fury is defensively a better boxer than him. It's going to be hard to land those right hands. I think Wilder is just going to be more patient. I think he's going to throw more shots to the body. He did early in that fight with Fury, and then he just went right hand crazy. All right. I think he'll be taking a different approach. I think he's going to be a little bit more patient and be more selective with those right hands. And Fury at the same time, being that he's going to be with Sugar Hill, Stewart. He's going to be training with a different trainer. He's going to be more offensive in this fight. I don't know if he's going to be switching lefty. I think that might be a little too risky, but Tyson Fury on his most, if you look at some of the stoppages he's had in his career, whether it was against Christian Hammer, fights like that, Tom Schwartz, he switched from righty to lefty. He was just more, he had more of an offensive arsenal in those fights. And I think that he's going to be switching it up a lot, and I think he's going to be more offensive. I don't think he's trying to get a second round knockout, but I do believe that he may be putting more power to his punches. Okay, I think he's definitely going to be sitting down his punches a little bit more, and I think with him being in the Crunk gym this time around, he's going to be taking a more offensive approach. But that could be even more dangerous because he might be setting himself up for a right hand to the face. All right. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think part of the way Wilder is going to lose ever in his career is he's going to need to fight someone that is going to be able to hurt him. All right. Someone that has a good enough chin to take more right hands than the average heavyweight he's been facing. There's been some heavyweights there that has taken the right hand. Bermane Stiverne took a lot of them in that first fight. This guy, who's the guy that Wilder fought in Alabama? He took a lot of right hands, man. This guy had a hell of a chin. I can't think of his name, but been a few fighters that have taken the right hands. All right, taking a good amount of them. I think it's going to be someone with a tough chin, someone that can hurt Wilder at the same time. I think just simply outboxing him for 12 rounds, I think it's not going to go too well because I don't think anyone in the heavyweight division is good enough to last 12 rounds. I think Fury probably has the best chance, but if he can't do it, he may do it this time, but if he can't do it, I don't know who will. I think where Joshua brings an approach where he can box and he can punch at the same time. So I think he has a good chance. But at the same time, he's not as defensively gifted as Fury. I don't think he's as stiff. As slick as Fury. He's a lot more stiff. So I think he'll catch a right hand a lot easier than Fury did. All right, but listen, this is like a pre-breakdown. I want to do another video where I'm going to be more technical as far as what both fighters need to do to win, which will be released this week as well. But I just wanted to give you a quick video about these two before we get into the real nitty gritty. I do want to go back and find the first fight, watch it over, and then give you a thorough assessment on what I think. But outside of everything else, I think the hype behind the fight is real. I think they're going to do well as far as pay-per-view numbers, and depending on who's going to win, I think they could get a good. I made a video talking about Joshua and his demands for 70-30. Listen, as far as a business standpoint, as far as pay-per-view numbers and stuff like that, as far as earnings and purses and stuff like that, I can see why Joshua feels that he should be getting that much of a percentage. But I think the winner of these two make a good case to make earn a lot more percentage wise when they do fight Anthony Joshua, whether it's Fury or Wilder. I think it makes a great case because not only will this be an amazing name to have on your resume, the first to beat Fury, the first to beat Wilder. I think that is a huge win, probably any bigger win than Joshua currently has. But I also believe that I think as far as the numbers, they're probably going to do pretty decent. I think they're going to do more better with the numbers they did in the first fight. And I think they would solidify themselves as an American star here. You know, um, period. Because Fury right now, Fury is becoming a star here in America. Okay, he's definitely is. Wilder has a name here. He's not as big as Joshua is over there, but Fury does have a name here and there. So uh, he's developing his fan base, especially with him joining the WWE and stuff like that. So they are creating a buzz for themselves. Worldwide, Joshua is probably still the biggest. Because he's drawing the most numbers as far as pay-per-views, as far as ticket sales and all that stuff, crowds, stadiums, stuff like that. but these guys are building a name for themselves. And by the time one of them gets to Joshua, I think they'll have a better argument. And I think that's exactly why they're holding off. I think that's part of the reason why they're holding off is because they want to create like a buzz for themselves when they go into negotiations and stuff like that. All right. So anyway, that's my take on it. Love the fight. Love the build up for it. I think the build up is good. I think the commentary should be pretty fair. I am disappointed that Paulie won't be a part of it. You know, I heard him in an interview who basically said that he's kind of been removed from any kind of commentary because he feels that Tyson Fury won the fight. I think that's kind of bullshit. You know, I think that's unfair because I think Paulie is probably the best commentator that's a boxer. You know, because I think he's the fairest out of everybody. You know, I like Andre Ward. I do like Lennox Lewis, but I think in specific fights they could be a little biased. I think they could be both of them. All right, but I do like them both. I think Paulie gives it up the best, though. I think he definitely gives it up the best. Tim Bradley, like this is how I feel about the commentators. I think Lennox Lewis is good, but there'll be that one fight where he's just like way off. Like I think he's good until he's bad, and then when he's bad, I think he's saying the total opposite of what's actually going on in the ring. And I feel that same way about Tim Bradley. Sometimes I'll be like, Tim be like, sometimes he's okay, and then there's certain fights where he's like, Tim, what the hell are you talking about? You know, as what are you talking about, bro? Like, you know, that's how I feel about Tim. Ward is pretty consistent for the most part. Uh, you know, I think I actually wanted to do a video on this. Who else is there? Part of this lineup? I don't know, but I think Paulie, as far as his technical ability, him talking about the real technical stuff, I think he's great and just saying it how it is. You know, sometimes he says what's against what the promoter or the network wants you to believe about the fighter. And he's like that across the board with everyone. That's why it's kind of disappointed where Wilder and his team took it too, so offended by what he said, even like with Floyd, Floyd thought he was winning and his fans went on YouTube and they started attacking Floyd as being a coon and all that stuff. But you know how they are. You know how that is. We already know. I've been there. So you're not allowed to say anything bad about Wilder, it seems, but it is what it is. All right, man. I'm out of here. Peace.